All right, perfect. All right, well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for our fifth, I believe, Tiger Talk of the semester. And so my name is Kayla Hubbard with Parent and Family Services, and we are so glad that you are here. Our office really is here to support, inform, and engage you as a family member so that you can help support and inform your student. We also have Heather Hampton with us, and so we will be discussing questions and ask them to Derek Myers about campus safety. If you are joining us live, feel free to stay on mute and use the chat button if you would like to ask a question. And so without further ado, we will go ahead and let Derek Myers introduce himself.
I'm Derek Myers. I'm the Chief of Police here at the University of Memphis. I've been here a little while. I actually started out as an officer in 1993, and I graduated from the university prior to that. So I've been here for all the changes that have occurred, and it has changed a lot. There are folks who haven't been back in a decade, and they don't recognize the campus now in some instances, which is kind of exciting to be here for all the changes that have been made.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being here with us. Our first question is about resources. So what safety resources are in place on campus for students?
Well, there's a number of things, obviously starting off with police services. We have our own police department, which we get the question all the time, A, are we real police? And B, are you part of Memphis Police Department or not? And the answer is yes, we are real police, but no, we are not part of the Memphis Police Department. We are our own independent department, although we do work really, really closely with the Memphis Police Department and have a mutual assistance agreement with them, which actually gives us citywide jurisdiction, which comes into play when we're investigating, especially. But beyond that, we also have dedicated folks that outside of police services that do things like crime prevention through environmental design. So for instance, we incorporate our landscaping crew with physical plant into what we do as far as safety, and also campus planning with, like for instance, when we have a new building, they give me blueprints and we look through them and talk about what we like, what we don't like, where do we place cameras, what kind of lighting is in this area, those kinds of things. And cameras would be another big issue, which is, we have over 1,000 and that seems to be growing all the time. So we've got cameras everywhere, which are beneficial for figuring out what happened when you've got, sometimes witnesses aren't exactly clear on exactly what happened. And it's always nice to be able to go pull up video and say, okay, we see it. We can tell what occurred because of the cameras. Lighting resources, we've been changing out pretty quickly, and we continue to change out along with MLGW to LEDs, which make a huge difference in the whiteness and the clarity of the light, especially when you're talking about in conjunction with electronics like video, to be able to see very, very clearly, even at night, and make out, details that you wouldn't have been able to make out otherwise. We also work with, our partners in in all the major units, giving various trainings, whether it's, again, something that's SEPTED related or best practices or, placement of cameras, because we do get a lot of folks who decide, they want cameras in their area and they're like, we have the budget, but we need you to tell us how do we best use that budget, those kinds of things. Also, you got to remember we have crime prevention. We have environmental health and safety, which is another another aspect of safety, which gets overlooked a lot. Bobby Clark and his team, we work with them real closely, and they mostly focus on things like fire safety. And we're the first responders for like fire alarms on campus, but they obviously maintain, make sure the equipment is maintained properly. Look at fire extinguishers and things like that, and we work real closely with them on those kinds of issues as well. Also, chemical hygiene. There's a whole. You probably should do another talk with them sometime, because their whole area is kind of interesting as well, as far as OSHA, TOSHA, and all that good stuff. But we overlap with them on some of that as well. And then we work with the other resources on campus that people don't commonly associate with safety. Things like the Dean of Students Office, and our counseling center. But when you're talking about whether it's behavioral issues you need to address, or if it's actually some mental health issues, we have to interact with those partners really, really closely. And the university does have something called a behavioral intervention team, which basically tries to intervene. There's no complaint too small, and it's a multidisciplinary team. And we, take every single complaint, look into it as in depth as we can, and then we try to determine, okay, which resources is the best to address this? Is it the dean of students office? Is it a police matter? Is it a counseling, a psychological counseling matter? And direct it to the right avenue. So there's a lot that goes into safety that's not just police services.
Thank you so much. It's good to know that all those resources are operating and coordinating with each other to keep the campus safe. Can you tell us a little bit about the Live Safe app and if it's something that parents and families can download?
Sure. So we adopted Live Safe quite a few years back, and it allows us to push messages out as well as receive messages. And folks can upload pictures to us, they can upload audio to us, and it makes a big difference when versus somebody calling us and saying, hey, there's a suspicious car. Everybody's walking around with cell phones, so they can snap a photo and send it to us. And that always takes any doubt out of the question of, are we dealing with the right suspicious vehicle or the right suspicious person when that sort of thing happens. And yes, it can be downloaded as a guest. And we've had some conflicting information on that, because some people tell me that like it'll let them be a guest for a little while, but then kicks them out. But then I've had other people who said they've had a guest account for years now. But either way, you should be able to get in there, and we should be repeating that information on our social media for the university's social media. So like if we send something out, like unfortunately we're looking at bad weather today. So if we do end up under a tornado warning, we would send it out via the Live Safe app. We'd also send it out through something called Alertus, which would interrupt all the network devices on campus and give the tornado warning there. And then we would follow up with emails if necessary, based upon, did we have any damage from straight line winds or tornadic activity or anything like that, and give people information in multiple layers.
Awesome. Thank you. Following up, how are parents notified of major safety issues that affect campus? And so is that going to be mainly through that Live Safe app, or should they also just be watching social media? Should they be checking anything else?
Yeah, I would be watching the social media, because the university will put out messaging anytime we have anything, that's basically campus wide. Probably the most common things are weather related. We have had, unfortunately, the last 3 years, we've had some pretty significant winter weather that closed us for 2-3 days up to a week. I think we were closed for 8 business days a couple of years back when we got some snow that nobody saw coming. And so, we were constantly updating the community on, where we were at and as far as recovery, and being able to dig ourselves out and waiting for the thaw in those instances. So most of that would come through either the university hotline or social media, and or emails, and through local media. To be honest, in something that large, you're gonna push out messaging to the local media stations as well.
Thank you so much. I think you kind of answered this question in your introduction a little bit, but are U of M police services, you said, are they they're not security guards, they're police officers.
Yeah, we do
Um,
have security guards. We are required to have the same exact training that's mandated by the state. It's what they call the Police Officer Standards and Training Commission, and they set the standards that every police officer in the state has to pass in order to become an officer. They also tell us what we, in some cases, what we have to mandate, or what we are mandated to do every single year. So every year we're required to go through another week of training, refresher training, and there are some specific things they mandate, and then there's some things that they, some open time they leave for you to figure out what do you want to emphasize this year in terms of training. So for instance, this year, and it's usually every other year, but this year everybody has to retake driving. So we actually have to go out on the driving track and go through an obstacle course and pass the obstacle course. It is timed, and you're not allowed to hit too many cones, otherwise you fail and have to do the remedial driving courses. But driving is a big part of policing. I always say that most of the time for most officers, a vehicle is that is their office, because they spend the majority of their time in a vehicle on patrol. So yeah, every other year that would be an example of something that they mandate, the post commission mandates. So everybody has to do that. We do most of our training with the Memphis Police Department, which just makes sense because we're inside of their jurisdiction. So we want to make sure that we're good teammates and that we have all the same training and tools that they have, and we understand what their policies and procedures are. So we know how, for instance, like how their Bureau of Investigations work, and we again do a lot of collaboration with them, not only with training but also obviously in actually doing the job. But we are our own department, and we're responsible for submitting all of our own training records and maintaining our certifications and everything with the state. And then on top of that, we do have some security guards that we've hired directly, and then others that are actually contract, but they all come through my office. So if anybody has an issue with whether it's police or security, it would be directed to me in terms of, if we've got a problem or an issue, or we need to look at something and try to find a better way to do it.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like we have a question in the chat. So it says, Chief, can you explain how to differentiate between the security guards we hire to patrol and for the special events and our state certified law enforcement officers? So would it be their uniforms or their cars or?
Sure. So, in uniform is one way to do it. So for instance, here in most of our locations in Shelby County, it'll say Allied Security. They'll have an Allied Security patch. Their uniforms have been either tan or gray. And then all of our uniforms have been all the officers' uniforms are typically what you see me wearing, which is actually a navy blue, even though it's so blue it looks black. And then of course it will say police on our on the arm patch, and it does say police on our badge, not security. So that you can look at those two things and see if it says police or security, because it should be clearly marked on them. We do have a few people who, like say our detectives may be wearing polos, but again, it'll say detective so-and-so, and it'll say police pretty clearly on a polo shirt too. So that's the easiest way to tell. At Lambeth, we do have Lambeth and Jackson, and the Lambeth guards, we've actually put them in we had to use school colors, so we put them in some royal blue shirts to just to show some school pride. So at Lambeth, the ones that work directly for us are wearing a royal blue polo.
Awesome, thank you. And then we talked about the resources a little bit at the beginning, but Tiger Patrol, can you kind of talk about how that works if a student is, at the 24-hour tech hub studying with their friends until 2 a.m. Are they able to get a ride back to their residence hall, or what's your advice on that?
Yeah, so Tiger Patrol is a group of students that we have done background checks on, and we give them like radios and a golf cart, and let them go do escorts from, the library to a parking lot, library back to a dorm, things like that. If they're not there, then a security guard or a police officer will actually do that at those escorts. And we do target them, the student aspect of it. It's mostly from when it gets dark until about 11ish, because it kind of falls off in terms of the volume after that. But while it's dark, again, either security or police will pick up the slack and do the escorts if the students aren't available.
Awesome, perfect. And I think at orientation, we get that question a lot. And so we always tell family members to tell their students that there are options. If they're, up in the UCLA or up at the Ned Lake, and they want to walk back to their residence halls, there's options to do that safely as well. Awesome. All right, next question. So how are we addressing the increase in crime, particularly with vehicles and theft on campus?
Sure. Well, yeah, it's become a major issue, not just in Memphis
Yeah,
and
nationally.
not just in Tennessee. It's actually national. For
Yeah.
those who don't know, there was a social media video that was shared last spring, roughly about a year ago, that went viral pretty quickly, and it specifically targeted Kias and Hyundais and how easy they were to steal. And because of that, that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen an explosion. Again, not just locally but nationally, in Kias and Hyundais. In fact, there are now state attorney generals, multiple state attorney generals that have banded together to sue the auto manufacturer for not responding in a timely fashion to the issue. And then that's what we continue to see is Kia and Hyundai. So we actually gave away a bunch of steering wheel locks last fall. I'd like us to, if I've got the resources, I'd like us to do that again. In the meantime, we've been encouraging people with multiple messages. If you own particular makes and models, I also need to throw in Infinity. A little bit different problem with the Infinities and now Nissans. They're using code programmers. They actually like get into the vehicle and then program their own blank key fobs that they buy on Amazon for $10 and then drive it off like it's their own. So what we're doing in the meantime is encouraging people to take extra precautions, either, and get and some of these things have gotten really cheap, installing kill switches, using the steering wheel brake, the brake pedal to the steering wheel lock, things like that. Anything to slow them down or make them go pick somebody else essentially is what we're encouraging. The other thing we're doing is we are investing again in increasing the lighting, especially in the parking lots. We've started to target that, and there is a project currently underway to increase parking lot lighting. We're putting fences around the parking lots again, just as another kind of deterrent or slowdown for activity in there. And then gating off everything. We built a garage a while back that actually is a general parking garage that has gates. And so why can't we put gates on everything? So that's kind of where we're at is looking at gating every single thing, so that, if you have a parking pass and you're here for a specific purpose, you should be able to get in. Everybody else, is going to have to either try and foil the system to get in, or do something that should draw attention to them that they shouldn't be doing in order to get in. On the backside, because we know that primarily we're being affected by juveniles. We are working very closely with the Memphis Police Department to locate and make cases against those that are responsible. And it's happening more than people think, as far as us being able to catch folks and make charges. The problem with them being juvenile, of course, is are they really going to be kept and held? Or are they going to be back out and doing the same sorts of things? And again, we're working with the Memphis Police Department and our other law enforcement partners to try and stress, especially to the juvenile court, that these folks are really affecting everybody's safety across the entire region, because every time we catch them, these are not 19, 20, 21-year olds. It's mostly people under 18 years of age, and they don't keep the vehicles long. In fact, some of the vehicles are actually being recovered before the person even reports them stolen. Like if you park your vehicle and you haven't been out to look at your vehicle in 24 hours, it might have already been recovered somewhere before you even noticed it was gone. Generally, they'll run it out of gas, or they'll wreck it, or whatever, and it'll be found by a law enforcement agency, and nobody's reported it yet. So of course it's been towed somewhere until the report gets made, and then we're able to hook the owner back up to their property. But yeah, we're targeting the parking lots very, very hard. And it's just because after that social media was shared, it became painfully obvious of how easy it was to steal some of these vehicles.
We certainly appreciate the work that you all are doing with this increase in vehicle crimes. A parent wants to know if their student's vehicle is burglarized or damaged while they're parked on campus. How should they report the incident to the university? And does the university have any type of initiatives to assist a student in that case if their vehicle's damaged while they're parked on campus?
Sure. So the first thing would be either to call us, immediately at 678-4357. Again, that's 901-678-4357. That's the dispatcher. There's somebody sitting there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to answer the phone. And we'll send an officer to you to take the report. Or you can walk in. We do get people who walk in over at it's actually in the Zach Curlin parking garage is where our dispatcher is located, where parking services is. You can walk into the front door there. Again, there's somebody always there, and make any kind of report you need to make. As far as initiatives to help the students, that actually runs through the Dean of Students office. They do have an emergency fund that you can make application to use the emergency funds, and you would have to talk to the Dean of Students for the particulars on that. But I can tell you that yes, lots of students were helped out with costs in terms of the break-ins, whether it was just a broken window or they actually, stole the car and it got recovered. I know there is a limit to that amount, but it's better than nothing. So again, I would go out to the Dean of Students office. I'm pretty sure the information's out there on the internet, on the website with their office about, in fact, I think there's a form you fill out and send it in if you happen to be victimized. Of course, they're going to ask you about the police report. So make sure you do report it, because the only way I can track these things and the only way we can try to target where we put our resources is if everybody reports where, that something happened to them. Because you do get some people who, for whatever reason, don't report stuff to us until, much later.
Yeah, awesome. All right, it looks like we have another question in the chat. And sorry, I'm looking at my window because I have a tree right here. I'm like, oh, it's getting windy out there.
Yeah, the storms were moving a little faster, and they were predicting like a 2:00 arrival.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, we'll hopefully be done by then. All right, so just a question from the chat. With the university's expansion on Park Avenue campus and with the upcoming tennis center down the road from main campus, do you all patrol the neighborhoods close by as well?
Yeah, we actually do. We would like to spend more time there, but frankly, we've actually been busy again. Just to point out to people, we don't just do police work. We actually are first responders. So like every medical emergency on campus, every mental health crisis call, fire alarms, all that stuff. We're actually answering all of those things and taking accidents just like everybody else does. So again, it's a matter of how much resources we have, but we are constantly traveling in and out of the neighborhoods. And we actually do have some camera resources that we placed in the neighborhoods, kind of like an electronic fence around us that actually give us data on vehicles that drive by. So let's say we have a stolen vehicle that goes down a particular street. It'll tell us that a stolen vehicle just went down that street, and we go try to intercept it, before it even gets to campus. And so yes, we are out in the neighborhood, just maybe not as much as we would like to be. But we do have, obviously lots of students, faculty, and staff that live in Normal Station, which is to our south, and in the neighborhood here to our west between Highland and Patterson. That's also where the fraternities are. And so we do spend a lot of time going over there and the religious organizations are also over there as well. So we actually do go over to the religious organizations pretty frequently, and obviously the fraternities if they have any issue, and we do drive through there.
Thank you so much. And I think you kind of answered our next question about students who live in off-campus apartments near the campus. So that's good that there's some patrol and some jurisdiction over there.
Yeah, we kind of we co-patrol that with the Memphis Police Department. We had a call last week, and we ended up going over there with them. They actually answered the initial, then they figured out it was some student involvement. So they called us over, and again, we worked the whole issue out with the Memphis Police Department as far as, who was going to do what. Everybody ends up taking a report, and that's the other thing is the Dean of Students office will get involved. Like even if it didn't happen on campus, I have access to all of the reports from the Memphis Police Department. So one of the things I do all the time is I'm monitoring what's going on around us in terms of the MPD reports. And when I see reports that involve students, which is pretty, basically you can look at the age range and then you just go check and see, is this a student or not a student? And if it is, we pass that information along to the other campus partners that need to know about it so that they can go intervene intervene, whether it's a mental health issue, whether it was an actual criminal offense, or was it a domestic violence, whatever it is, we direct it over to them, and let them take a look at that, and either offer assistance to the student, or if it's a student conduct issue, it'll get looked at as that way too, even if it's not on campus per se, but close to campus.
So, what other safety initiatives? You talked a little bit about some of the things that the university is doing in the beginning. So I guess with this, just maybe elaborate on a couple of them that are kind of close to being implemented, particularly the fencing. I liked what you said about the fencing. And then what is the timeline for implementing some of these initiatives?
Sure. So there is a contractor, a vendor, who is actually currently working up the plan on the lighting for some specific areas, and so that we ought to see that this summer. By this summer, we ought to see some changes made there. And fencing has already occurred. If you've been down Patterson recently, you'll see some new fencing that already got added to some of the lots down towards Minders Avenue and Norriswood, and then up on Central. And that's going to continue. You'll see some more fences added, here pretty quickly. Gates may take a little longer, because but again, there is a vendor who's looking at that and getting back with the university on here's the plan and what it's going to cost, because you're talking about having to bore and actually put lines for electricity and data and all that out to an island somewhere so that you can put gates in, things like that. And then if you're going to change out the where you have the lighting structures, you're also going to have to, again, bore and change where the electrical runs to. So it takes a lot of planning, and make sure you don't hit anything you're not supposed to hit.
Definitely. Thank you. So another question from a parent. So my student saw something that looked like illegal activity on campus. Can they report this anonymously?
They can. There is a silent witness report. I would rather they report it personally, so that we can get back to them, because if I got no way to contact you back, and I would, we try not to put anybody in harm's way. So for instance, like, let's say we have some juveniles that somebody spots and says, hey, these look like really young kids. I don't think they're supposed to be out here. We find them, but maybe it's not the right group. It would be nice to be able to get that witness and say, are these the ones you were talking about? And again, we can do that in a way. Obviously we can drive you by, what we call a one shot. We can drive you by in a car and let you just look out, and they can't see you because our cars are pretty tinted in terms of being able to see in, and just say, is that the group? And and them just tell us yes or yay or nay, yes or no, that's the guy, or that's the folks that I was calling about. But that's why it's important to try and get back with them. But if they really do want to just say anonymous, completely anonymous, they can send something to silent witness, which again you can find at the memphis.edu police website, and click on it and submit stuff to us. And again, that is completely anonymous on there. Of course, you can also call up, and most of the time these days with cell phones, they're fairly untraceable, especially if it's a prepaid kind of thing. Or you can block it, because we have people that do that too. They'll block the phone and just call the dispatcher and give us the information, and we're not able to contact them back. But my message would be, please report anything you think. I say all the time that people are their instincts are pretty good. So if they think something's wrong and they should report it, they really should. So take the time to let us know about it. And if we do need you to follow up with you, be assured we're going to do everything we can to keep you out of it as much as we can. But I will say this: if you actually saw a crime occurring, it's vitally important that you be willing to participate, because that's the only way, unless we capture it on camera, which we might, but the only way for us to absolutely get convictions or actually have something happen to somebody that did something wrong is for other people to stand up and be willing to testify, which can be problematic on occasion. So I just tell folks, you have to be part of the solution and help us out when we're making the effort and actually catching the bad guys. You got to be willing to stand up and say, yeah, I saw them do this or that or the other.
And
Yes, thank you.
Kayla, just quickly, one of the parents wanted to know, and I think we may have Mr. Myers may have mentioned this, but how many cameras approximately do we have on campus?
Oh, it's over 1,000 now.
Over 1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
So,
I've lost track of the exact number at the moment, but it's over 1,000. I kept on saying 900, and my network services said, "Oh no, we're over 1,000. I'll have to get you a new number."
Awesome. And then one more question for the chat, and we have a closing question as well. So is there an anonymous link on the police services site that they can
Yes,
go
it
to
should be
report?
there. Let me make
Okay.
sure. Uh, every once in a while, sometimes the site will get redesigned without me really knowing it.
Yeah. I understand that.
It should be out here, but I'm looking at it currently myself. Yes, if you hit incidents, if you go to our website, you'll see the top bar that has different. Oh, I backed off of it. You'll see a bar at the very top, and one of them is marked incidents. And if you click on the one that's marked incidents, you'll see on the left-hand side incident reporting. There's something right there that says silent witness report. By the way, that's a very good site. If you want to stay in the know of what's going on campus, you just go to our daily incident log online. Which is the first thing you'll see there, and it'll actually give you narratives of the actual offenses that we've taken on campus, so that you can read for yourself what's occurred. And it needs to be updated. We had a long weekend in terms of number of reports that came in. Not a lot of offense reports, but just a number of reports that came in, and it should be updated today. And you can see it runs through March 31st currently, but it should be updated here by the end of the afternoon. And the actual log is a paper log that's kept at the dispatch, so you could always go in there and ask to see that too if you wanted to see the paper log. Which on that one, it's 2 business days period, end of story. So we're trying to keep this one, the electronic one, up, but again, if we get flooded with a bunch of reports, it may take us a minute to catch up.
Awesome. And then as we close, unless there's any other questions in the chat that you all see, we know there's a lot of family members who are sending their babies, their students to campus, and they may have some anxiety about their student leaving, about the transition of their student becoming, their little child into an adult. And we know safety sometimes is wrapped in that as well. As Chief of Police, do you have any advice for parents when they're sending their students to campus? Any conversations they might need to have, or just any advice in general for the parents to make them feel better about that decision and to know their student is good and safe?
Well, I am a parent myself, and you pretty much have to trust what you've done as a parent up to this point. That they're gonna be the people that you think they are. But I would again have that talk before they go off on their own about. And I bet every parent's had this conversation about, be careful of the company you keep, because a lot of what we see is um, that follower mentality, and you can be led down the wrong path if you start hanging out with people that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And then again, making sure that they don't look at it as I'm going to get in trouble for reporting something. And it's like, no, don't ever have that attitude. And our OIE office deals with that specifically, especially when it comes to sexual offenses, because, a lot of times with sexual offenses, there's a lot of guilt there. Like, I put myself in a bad situation, and we know that we know from all the national studies, there's a lack of reporting in terms of sexual offenses. And so a lot of the programming that the Office of Institutional Equity does is on telling, people all those things, and saying, no, you need to come forward and report. And there's not going to be any pushback on you for whatever poor choice you made that you're making yourself feel guilty about. It's all about get you the resources you need, and also, of course, make sure that we address the person who really is at fault there, and deal with them harshly. So again, just making sure that they know to come and report stuff either to us. The three places that they need to remember they can always report stuff is they can report things to the counseling center, which is more confidential. But I would encourage you to talk there first, because then you can make a decision whether you want to go further with police or another agency. Office for Institutional Equity, which deals with, and people go, well, what's that? And it's like, well, Office for Institutional Equity is, deals with the Title IX stuff, is one of the things they deal with, but they're also in charge of dealing with everything that has to do with sexual harassment, sexual assault, any kind of, intimidation, and then everything domestic violence related also goes through OIE. And so again, don't be ashamed. Don't think that it's your fault, especially when it comes to DV and sexual assault stuff. Make sure that you come talk to somebody, and see if you do need to make, if you, I think a lot of times after they talk to some of those other offices, they feel more comfortable in actually coming and making a police report. And so don't be afraid to come talk to us, because everybody here has been doing this a long time. I assure you, you're not going to really tell us anything we haven't heard before at this point. And so we're here to help, and we're here to do whatever we need to do to try and help. And then the last thing would be, if you are worried, and this does happen, if you are worried about them because they're out on their own for the first time and you haven't heard from them in a week, we do go do some checks. Just keep in mind, we might embarrass them when we knock on their dorm room door and say, call mom.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate all of your advice and expertise. And so we thank you again to our guests for joining us. We hope that y'all come to our next Tiger Talk. And so we'll be talking about the Tiger Smart program that has started with the campus bookstore, and then with counseling about managing stress during finals. If you would like to give your student a goodie for finals, we do have our finals care package open until April 14th, I believe, but I might have made that up. So into the middle of April. And then you can also order a yard sign. So if you're not a part of our Parent and Family Association and you have a May 2023 graduate, feel free to go online and get them a yard sign. And then lastly, we have had our family night at the Shite. It is rescheduled. So last Friday we tried to have it, and then there was a little bit of weather. And so now we're having it Sunday, April 30th. And so we'll have a family mingle, and you'll also get to enjoy the concert. And admission is free. So if you're a current family, you can come for free, and prospective families also can come for free. You'll just need to RSVP on our website. And that is all. So again, thank you so much for attending. We will put this on YouTube and on Facebook. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email us at parents@memphis.edu, and we will be sure to answer and point you to the right direction. So thank y'all so much and have a great day.